So the biggest takeaway from this video is that, what's going on everybody? If you don't know me, my name is Jackson McCarthy. I'm a pre-med student athlete, and today I want to talk to you about how hockey, or my sport, led me to medicine. I think it's a pretty cool story, and if you're playing a sport right now, there's a good chance that a lot of this will apply to you if you're thinking about going into medicine. So here you go, let's get into it. But first, how we start every video, glory be to God and our Lord Jesus Christ. Hope you guys are having a great day, and now let's jump into it. So to understand how I got here, we have to go all the way back. So probably when I was about 3 or 4 years old. So I'm 3 or 4 years old. My dad first teaches me how to skate, and I am horrible. I don't know what to do. I can't skate at all. Obviously, I'm a little kid, so that's not that uncommon, but that's when hockey really started for me. I'm going on the sheet, falling around, whatever. So as I get older, about 5 all the way up through like 9 and 10, I was probably the worst hockey player there ever was, and whoever touched the ice. I don't know how I made any hockey team ever. Good thing that anybody who signed up could play, because I was horrible. I couldn't shoot, couldn't stick handle, couldn't skate, couldn't do anything. However, the reason I bring this little period up, and I won't spend a ton of time on it, it's because this is the period where it really ingrained my work ethic. For me to really stay on par with all of my friends and all my teammates, and to even end up surpassing some of them, I had to work extremely, extremely hard. Anytime that there was any extra ice, I had to jump at the opportunity. I had to shoot so many pucks in the driveway. I had to work out twice as hard as everybody else because I wasn't really in shape. I didn't know how to skate, so I had to spend so much time on the slide board, which is a little skating contraption that helps you kind of get the movements down. You don't have to know the intricacies of all of that, but if you play a sport, chances are you've had to work extremely hard in your life to really become successful. And for me, this was twice and doubly so because I was horrible to start. I had no natural talent at all. I had to work extremely, extremely hard, and this will pay dividends later down the line. Fast forward to probably 13 years old, so I'm about in 8th grade. It starts to pay some dividends. So now I'm actually becoming one of the best players in the area in my age group, and I get recruited to play on one of the best travel teams in the area for my 14U year. So 14U year, I end up at the Buffalo Junior Sabres, which is in Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm from. And now we are starting to play on national stages. I am going to different showcases around the country. We went to, I remember, Texas. We went all throughout the New England area. We played teams from California that came over, so we're pretty much going around all over the place playing super competitive hockey. And there are adults, these scouts, that are actually coming to pretty much track us and see how we end up growing and maturing in the sport. Sadly, we lost in states, but I remember it was super fun. It was a super good game, and we were considered one of the best at that time. Fast forward to 15U. We actually ended up winning states, going through the whole process again. We won states. We actually won a national championship. So we were starting to get a lot of good success, and a lot of our names were being put on lists for draft boards for a lot of different things. So now we're starting to get more notoriety and actually playing good hockey. Going into 16s, we won states, went back to nationals. We were having a ton of success. We ended up losing, sadly. But all of this is to say that throughout my entire time, so pretty much through high school up to my junior year, I'm working extremely hard. Hockey is probably the biggest part of my life, and that's the only thing I'm thinking about. Obviously, I'm still performing well in school because that's very important to me and my family. My family and I, grammar. But the big part of this is that I had to really dial in my work ethic. My work ethic had to grow exponentially during these years because I wanted to keep progressing. Now, my mind was super tunnel vision because all I was thinking about hockey, and everyone wants to be a pro athlete when they get older. So I wasn't really thinking about what I was going to study in college, what I really wanted to do. And to be honest, when you're a junior in high school, yes, you want to figure out where you're going to go to college, what you might want to study, but you don't have to have that fleshed out already. I knew I was a big science guy. I liked the sciences, so I probably was going to end up doing something like that. I also wanted to be super successful by society standards, so maybe I was going to end up in business. Who knows? I just wanted to ride the hockey train as long as possible. That brings me to my 18th year, or my senior year of high school. And actually, I got recruited to play at a prep school, which was new in Rhode Island at that point. I actually moved at the age of 16, went to go dorm. And then from there, I was pretty much consistently living away from home for the next up to current. We pretty much were the best team at that point for the 18U level. It was between us and Shattuck, and we would have loved to see that showdown in nationals, but COVID happened. So I pretty much went 8 to 9 months not really playing with the whole lockdown, if a lot of you remember that. There wasn't much that you could do. Everything was pretty much shut down. But when things started to open up, so did junior hockey leagues. Now, if you don't know what juniors are, and every hockey player is going to laugh at this, it's that period of time in between high school and college where you can pretty much try to hone your craft as best as you can. You pretty much play so you can try to get a scholarship and find a way to play college hockey. Now, we won't go into the whole hockey tree because there are different levels of junior and all these different things. However, where I ended up, I was in the North American Hockey League. I ended up playing in Minnesota, then out in Boston, and that took about 3 years. The idea behind juniors is you pretty much just go and play hockey. You don't have any other commitments necessarily. Some people work, some people take extra classes, which I wish I would have done because I would have loved to have gotten some credits out of the way, but I didn't. But chances are, if you're a junior hockey player, you have a ton of free time. You're pretty much sitting around until you go to practice, and then when you get back, you're probably playing video games or doing whatever. It's probably the only period of life where you don't really have many obligations, which is pretty sweet, and you should totally take advantage of it if you can do it. But I didn't, so I was just sitting there watching TV shows, doing whatever. However, it did pay off because I ended up getting a scholarship to go play Division I at Mercyhurst University. It didn't work out after my freshman year, so I ended up transferring to where I am now, Gustavus Adolphus College, which is D3. But the big thing about my freshman year is I met some great people, some great friends, but I actually started out majoring in neuroscience. Because of the time I spent in juniors, I actually got into this big mode of I need to get as good as possible so I can get the scholarship. So everything I was building towards was trying to get that scholarship to play Division I, and that meant my body had to be in tip-top shape. I'm trying to figure out how I can pack so much training in that period of time so I'm not as tired. I'm trying to be on my A game pretty much. And so that led me to the Huberman podcast. If you don't know, he's a big neuroscience professor at Stanford, very big into the biohacking and optimization stuff, which I'm all about, or was at that time at least. And I found it super, super intriguing, everything that he was talking about with the brain, because I am a science guy to my core. So I was like, you know what? I would love to do that. I would love to work in the lab, figure out how to optimize certain different things. Everything about sleep I think is super cool. So I'm gonna go be a neuroscience major when I go into college. So that's what I started off with. But midway through my freshman year, I don't even really know what happened. But I wasn't really playing hockey, so I really dove into my academics. After spending that time in junior, I lost a lot of that stimulation that I got from the classroom. Call me a nerd, call me whatever, but I actually really like class. I really like learning because I think it's super fun. I always like a kind of a new challenge and a new puzzle. And so when I got back to school my freshman year, I dove right into my academics and I loved it. I was soaking everything in and it was super fun. And the neuroscience route seemed super cool at first and it seemed super fun, but then I felt like I was limiting myself, because there were so many different parts of the body that I ended up finding super intriguing. And especially because I had that foundation with hockey where I had to be working out all the time and figuring out all these biomechanic pieces, I recognized and I appreciated everything the body had to offer. And also during junior, it became very important to me that I dove back in my faith. And so I recognized that what I wanted to do down the line had to be pretty much helping people. I wanted that to be a main tenet of what I was doing. And so neuroscience, I could do a lot of research that would help a ton of people 100%. But I recognized, A, I had this foundation with the whole body, that I really loved all the intricate parts of it, not just the brain, even though I really do love the brain. I was like, that's super cool. Why would I limit myself only to the brain? And two, I was like, well, I like extreme problem solving. I like people. I like all of these different things. Why do I feel like I'm limiting myself right now? People first brought up being a doctor if they were going to be a doctor. I was like, that's too much school. That's a lot of debt. I don't want to deal with that. That's just such a headache. I also don't think I'm smart enough for that. I don't really care. But then it was once I got after my freshman year or mid-freshman year, I was like, what if I became a doctor? What if I just did it? Like, so what? I'm already 3 years behind the traditional path because of juniors. So why not just go to med school after? Like, I'm already behind at this point. Behind. We can go into the whole timeline thing later because there is no behind. But I was like, I'm already 3 years out of the traditional, so I might as well just go and just do it. Who cares? So I started exploring and I decided, you know what, I'm going to be pre-med, and if the wheels fall off getting there, then I'll just pivot and figure it out. And so I ended up transferring to Gustavus for my sophomore and now junior year, and I am full in on the pre-med track. I am all about still hockey. I still want to play hockey and still go as far as I can. And I've talked about in some other videos, I hope to play during one of my gap years going into medical school. But medical school is probably the end goal now because that's something that doesn't really have a timeline. Hockey, you can only play for so long. Being in medicine, there are physicians that are 60, 70 years old, so there's longevity in it. And so the biggest parts of what actually brought me into medicine was A, having that work ethic, so not shying away from a lot of the hard work that it takes academically because I was already doing it physically at a super young age, and that's becoming ingrained in me. Two, I have a natural inclination for science, so I really like it. It was super fun throughout high school, and I was multitasking, so I had a ton of time management skills that a lot of people don't have, being super competitive in hockey and having super good grades. Three, I learned to not limit myself because when you're winning a lot in hockey at a super young age, you recognize you can have success. It's not like success is built for somebody else. I was super fortunate to be on super good teams, so we won. But when you're not being limited by yourself and you can think success can actually happen for you, that helped me later down the line because I was like, why am I not being a doctor? Because I don't think I can. Well, I'm just gonna go do it and see what happens. 4, the appreciation of the body. Because I had to work out and put so much physical effort at such a young age, I learned to be really in tune with my body. And so that actually led me right into medicine because there's a pretty clear connection there. If you're in tune with your own body and you find it super interesting how everything works and how it is like a machine, then chances are you're gonna be a good doctor or wanna go down the pre-med path or go down the doctor path, because that's pretty much your job day in and day out. If it's something that interests you and it's something that lights you up or sparks your interest, that's gonna be something you wanna do for a job. Pretty simple. The main reason I'm bringing this point of hockey to medicine is because these things are super on the surface, not connected. They seem completely unrelated. But because of the little details from hockey, they directly translated into medicine in ways that I couldn't have foreseen and ways that I wasn't really expecting. And I think if we find the opportunities in the things that we're doing right now or the interests that we have right now, they can be applicable in so many other areas of our life. I think our current interests, whatever they may be, can end up actually influencing our decisions later down the line because of a lot of those details and a lot of the things we learn along the way. Now, when I was young and playing hockey, I didn't know that my work ethic, trying to get better at stick handling, skating, and shooting, was going to end up translating me getting ready for the MCAT for going into medical school. There was no way that I would have ever thought about that. But a lot of the characteristics that we find out about ourselves with our previous passions or our current passions can influence the stuff that we do later on. Things are a lot more interconnected than we want to think. So the biggest takeaway from this video is that if you think where you are right now has no effect or no benefit later on, if you think what you're doing right now has no worth, want to shoot for the stars later down the line, and you're like, what I'm doing right now is not conducive whatsoever, there are always some details or always some lessons that you can take from what you're doing right now and apply it later on. You just have to look for it. Like I said before, the work ethic, the interest in the body, and learning from the successes that I had previously directly translated into me choosing medicine. On the surface, again, not related, but I looked for the little details that actually connect. Think of it kind of like little spider webs. When you're walking through it, you don't see it, but you feel it because they're so thin, they're so itty bitty and tiny. Whether it's tiny or not, two things are still connected by that strand. No matter what we're doing right now or what we want to do in the future, they can be connected by our lessons and what we learn going through the process, or a lot of the characteristics we build as we continue to grow. So all this is to say, take pride in what you're doing right now, and chances are you can learn from what you're doing right now to get where you want to get to in the future. Don't limit yourself, believe in yourself, keep doing your thing. So that's how I got from hockey to pre-med and how they relate to each other for me. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever. We're trying to get to 100. Would really appreciate it. Thank you.